do you explain this?
Hi, I'm Rebekah, and I work as a ghost tour guide in one of the most haunted cities in the southern United States, Wilmington, North Carolina. Follow along with me. I'm going to show you some of the most haunting photos captured on my ghost tour, and then we're going to go back to those locations during the day to see if we can figure out what went bump in the night. I'm Rebekah, the Ghost Guide.
Let's take a closer look at the photo. Considering how fuzzy it is, it seems like this person did not mean to take the photo in the first place. As the tour guide is leaving the location, the person is likely putting their phone away. First of all, I'm not sure who or what that fog is. Could be part of the group, and we can't see the rest of them in the dark. Or it could be one of the ghost kids from the old hospital nearby. You tell me. Secondly, look up here. And this circle was actually made by the person who sent it in. I don't really feel like I need to explain this in too much detail because there's plenty of detail to be had. To me, it looks like a woman in a dress. Followers on Instagram and TikTok had a lot to say about what this person was wearing. People saw anything from a cloak to a veil to Edwardian or Victorian period clothing. Others suggested she may be a nun. Personally, I see a woman in a larger dress that may date back to the 1880s. To check myself, I drew 3 different outlines at 3 different zoom levels to try and see what features stick. Definitely the long billowing skirt with a possible bustle, a formal-looking top, and long, loose hair. If she's wearing a light-colored shawl, this would lean more to being of the Victorian period. If the back of her dress is open, this would therefore make her more of the Edwardian time. Go back to the location and try and find any clues on either who this was or if the picture is too good to be true. The tunnel in which the photo was taken is underneath the historic Murchison Building, built in 1913. The purpose of the tunnel was to keep the loading dock open for what would later become the Old Bullock Hospital featured on one of my previous episodes. In fact, without the Bullock Hospital being one of our ghost tour stops, the entity may have never been captured. Who is this? As I mentioned, we don't have a specific story with this tunnel. However, in taking into consideration what this entity seems to be wearing, the clothing outdates the tunnel. However, before I get into what was going on in Wilmington at the time she could have been a part of, let me first address some of the comments from earlier. Firstly, the possibility that this could be a nun. While I see how people saw a nun here with what looks like could be an all-black dressing and long veil, on closer inspection, I personally see her uniform showcasing long hair, a possibly open back, and form-fitting clothing. That leads me to believe that this was a woman of mid to higher class that lived in the late Victorian or early Edwardian eras. What really seals the deal for me are these wide sleeves that sit right over her shoulder. The next mystery then would be over her hair. If not a veil, as what would be worn in Victorian mourning, it would appear her hair is down, which wouldn't be considered appropriate in this time outside of the home. Did she leave in a rush in her last moments? Or was her home nearby and has since been lost to time? Your guess is as good as mine. As I mentioned, the time period that she would have come from, the hospital wasn't in service yet, and the tunnel hadn't been built for its access yet. However, what I can share with you is some information on the time period she appears to have come from. The late 1800s was a time of change in Wilmington. There was an influx of European immigrants, for example. The port city was thriving off of transportation based off of sea to rail trade. Was this woman an immigrant who traveled the rough seas only to catch an illness that took her life in port? Perhaps she was the daughter or wife of one of the railroad barons whose wealth couldn't keep her from the inevitable. Whatever the reason, I think one thing we all can agree on is our gratefulness of her stopping by for a photo that night. But hey, what do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Thanks for watching. And hey, you want to see photos firsthand? Go on over to my Instagram or the TikTok. That's where I get comments from people and what they think. I would love to hear what you have to think. As always, you are welcome to email me photos, stories, questions. I'm all ears for what you gotta say. And lastly, hey, what's stopping you from subscribing? Thank you so much for those who have subscribed already. You there, I see you. Subscribe, okay? I'd love to see you again. And last but not least, Thank you so much again to Ghost Walk of Old Wilmington. If you want to catch your own creepy photo, or at least shoot to catch that photo, come on down and see us. We'd love to see you.